Hello, everyone. Hi. Thanks so much for coming today. We are joined by a wonderful team of Jena and Charity, who are from Barker and Scott, and I am Christina McPhillips, and I am from Carl Bloom Associates. We're happy that you're here today. We're going to be talking about some things having to do with CRMs and tech. So for some of you, we're excited about these fun topics. And um, if you're thinking at all about your CRM, how to maximize what you've already got, or if you're thinking about a new one, or you don't know, the two ladies here are absolutely experts. If we don't get to the 15 questions we have in the next 30 minutes, I think we'd be really happy to be having conversations and your impromptu questions. So, and if you don't know me or Carl Bloom, we work heavily with nonprofits, public media. We work with PBS and NPR and libraries and environmental groups and education nonprofits doing direct mail and digital services and that kind of thing. So with that, Charity, let me turn it over to you to introduce you both, and then we'll get started with our questions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charity Jovanovic, and I get to lead Barker and Scott. Barker and Scott has been a trusted consulting and technology services partner to the nonprofit sector for over 20 years. And our unique strength is that we can work we can provide holistic support. So we can work on things like strategy all the way to day-to-day operations. And we're one of the few firms who can do this across the major CRMs and across multiple technology platforms. So we can help work on strategy projects like IT, data, AI governance, multi-year technology roadmaps, assessing your current CRM, enhancing or streamlining business processes, to things like selecting new technology, change management, and my favorite, day-to-day operations, because we have an amazingly talented managed services team who has to use the technology that we recommend and quickly becomes an extension of your development operations team. Prior to Barker and Scott, I have been in fundraising for over 20 years, most recently at a large national education organization where I helped to lead two enterprise-wide digital transformations. And I am based in Houston, Texas. I get the honor of also introducing Jena Blaustein, my colleague here. She is the real deal. She has over 20 years of experience in this space. She was a former executive at one of the major CRM software companies, and she's our director of technology and managed services. And she's seen it all. So she has a very deep, and I like to say empathetic understanding of how to make the most out of your technology, but also when it's time for change. So thank you for having us on, Christina.
Yeah, my pleasure. And actually, we have a question that came in already. I'm going to pause on that question, Jim. I see your question. I think we can flow that in really nicely. So please listen up. It's coming soon. Let me ask a couple of questions to the ladies as we go on. So a few things. What is the one question to get started an organization should even ask before forming a CRM committee or having the thought of, I think we need to get a new CRM? What is the question that they should be asking themselves?
I think the first question is, what is your vision for your CRM? So what does success look like? And if you can't answer that question, even at a high, simple level, that is the first place I would start, because that is going to be your North Star to help guide you on whether or not it's time for change, whether or not it's a business process or something else that you need to change. So that would be the first question I would ask.
Okay. Jena, any thoughts?
I think Charity is absolutely right. If you don't know where you're going, then any step you try and take before that could potentially be in vain, and you're going to be spinning your wheels and may not even be heading directionally where the organization needs to be.
Okay. What is a red flag that your current tech stack is costing you money or helping you lose donors potentially, even if you think day-to-day things are fine? What's that red flag?
If your team is stressed, if your team is feeling stressed and overloaded with operational tasks, especially frontline staff, there's something not right. And if the CRM is not making their life easier, not helping them make their day-to-day decisions, if they feel like they have to do all this manual work to get the information they need to make a decision, then that is a red flag regardless of if you think everything else is running smoothly.
Mm, okay, that's really interesting. I feel like my CRM experiences were a little stressful. So, okay, thanks
You
for that.
shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be. Everyone says our data is a mess. So that's a universal thing. How messy is too messy before it is actually holding back your fundraising performance?
Well, there's some industry benchmarks. So if your duplicates are higher than 5% of your database, or if your email bounce rates are more than 2%, those are indicators that you definitely have some data hygiene issues. A lot of the CRM systems that you're using probably have a built-in data health rating check that will audit the accuracy of your addresses, your phone, your email. So even if you're not sure how to determine your duplicates or where you have gaps in your data, the CRM can often point that to you.
Okay.
And I would add that from a very practical perspective, if it's impacting your constituent, so your donor, your members, your alums, if it's impacting them, meaning this is the third time they're getting the wrong greeting on their letter, et cetera, that's when I would say that it's time to really think about data hygiene.
Okay, good. And in the chat, just wanted to say someone has asked for a repeat of the bounce rate, and Jenna has said that is 2%. So, okay, thank you. So you have probably worked with teams that thought they had a tech problem, but really they had a process problem. How can a leader at a nonprofit tell the difference?
I think it's hard to tell a difference. So it's best to listen to your teams and really hear from them and have a genuine conversation about what works and what doesn't work. Because I would hazard to say that a majority of the time it's all of the above. And so being able to really understand what levers you would pull because it's all an ecosystem. And, sometimes too, it is a mismatch of the tech. But I would say that's where I would start is hearing from your team on what works and what doesn't.
Okay. Okay. Very
And I
good.
think it's really helpful to get an objective opinion of your CRM, have someone outside of the organization, sometimes even the CRM vendor, though that's arguable how objective that is, but someone that is an expert in your CRM, do an assessment to see, are you maximizing all the functionality? Are you leaving functionality on the table? Maybe you're not able to maximize the functionality because of the way you structured your data or data hygiene issues, or your people aren't getting sufficient training or support. So any number of things can get surfaced from doing that kind of objective assessment for your team.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Thank you for that. Let's see. What is the biggest myth that you hear about CRMs or donor databases that drive you crazy?
That there is this unicorn system that's going to meet 100% of your needs, which is a total lie. There's no perfect tech. There's always going to be trade-offs. And the more you allow yourself to believe that myth, the less likely you're going to want to adopt the system. So it's going to perpetuate that grass is always greener feeling, and it's going to kind of blind you from what your CRM potentially could do if you were willing to work with the team and make trade-offs.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. We are flowing through the questions, so it's good. Can you share a story of a small or mid-sized nonprofit that made a tiny change and saw a big impact?
Yeah, so we were working with a mid-size university foundation. They were on the Razor's Edge 7, so a Blackbaud product. Some of you might be on, and Blackbaud is pushing everyone to be going to RENXT. They already had some staff dissatisfaction with RE7, so they were debating like, should we just go out for a selection? Should we just find another solution? And they came to us and we worked with them to do an assessment of their CRM. And similar to what we were talking about before with that, objective assessment. So we were able to show them that they were using less than 50% of what was available to them. And they had implemented RE7, I think it was over 10 years ago. So their strategy had changed, their fundraising strategy, but they hadn't changed how they configured or used the system to align with that strategy. So rather than spending 2 years, thousands of dollars, and selecting and migrating to a new system and learning a new system, we were able to help them restructure the Razor's Edge 7 so that they could maximize the available functionality plus adopt the new functionality that was available in the RENXT web view, and then help document that and train their staff for a quarter of what it would have cost them, probably even less, depending on what system they selected. And then everyone ended up being very happy with the system, and it was a much less stressful, lower change management experience than what they were going to do without us.
Oh, that's interesting. I have a question for all of the people listening, and feel free to chat this in. How many of you are currently considering switching to a new CRM? You can chat, we'll keep going, and then we can look at those answers in a minute. Okay, another question. If you're 6 months out from needing a new CRM, you think you do, what's the smartest first step and what is the biggest mistake to avoid?
The smartest first step is finding a firm like Barker and Scott to help you make that decision. I'm joking. Okay. In all seriousness, it's exactly what Jena said. Whether you have that internal capability in-house to do an assessment and a diagnostic of your own CRM system, and just get a sense of what's working, what's not, taking inventory of your business processes, what are pain points, bottlenecks, et cetera, what's very manual, things like that, doing that internal assessment and getting a sense of the gaps essentially and what's holding you back is the first thing, the first step that I would take. And then I think the biggest mistake to avoid is to fall for really good marketing. Jena mentioned that the grass is greener on the other side, and it's very easy to fall for like a shiny new system without really understanding what your needs are from a technology. And again, like maybe your fundraising strategy changed, but really understanding your needs is important. And I would say my biggest warning is like demos. If you're ever demoing technology, to make sure to come with specific questions that you know are really key to your business processes, and really holding vendors accountable to whether or not that their system can really do that.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. I'd like to, so we're getting a couple of more questions and I wanted to flow this into what we're talking about. So, we have a group on the phone or on the line that's asking, what CRM services do you recommend that they look at to level up their platform as they do research? So in preparation for this webinar, we know that some groups here may have a few staff members and may be on the small to medium side, some medium to large, that kind of thing. When you are working with organizations, are there any CRMs where you go, this one is good for small staff, small nonprofit. This one is good for medium-sized staff, medium-sized nonprofit. And when I say small and medium, I mean the amount of revenue that they're generating. And then large. So I know that there's probably a wide range. You could probably name 15 CRMs that could be appropriate right now, but are there any that come to the top of your list? Let's start with small and then medium and then large if you can. I know this was a curveball question. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a curveball only in that there's not necessarily a one-to-one ratio with size and CRM. It really depends on so many things like your revenue streams. Like there's certain systems that are really strong with direct mail, let's say, like Revolution Online CRM, Bonterra's Every Action is really strong. With direct mail. There's others that are very strong with major giving. So it's Blackbaud, RENXT we have mentioned is really good with major giving. There are systems, I think I saw in the chat, someone's using Bloomerang, which is good for some of the smaller organizations as you're growing. Virtuous is another one that's traditionally been good for smaller, though we have heard feedback from customers that the prices, might be getting a little high. There's also Little Green Light, Neon CRM, Donor Perfect. It's been out there forever and people want to overlook it, but they've actually been making some pretty interesting changes. And then of course, you guys know the Salesforce, the Blackbauds that are out there. So it's it's tempting to say like, okay, I'm this size, let's look at this CRM, but you really have to look at all of your needs, even and culturally too, and what's important to your organization. Is it important to have a good partner that's a vendor? Not all of the CRM vendors are known for their customer support or their training or just being an effective partner. Others might have more limited functionality, but their support team will bend over backwards to give you what you need. So what's more important to you? So that's why often organizations don't want to spend the money on a selection process, but those processes really help your team align on what those priorities are, whether it is purely functional fit or is it a combination of the functional fit, the partnership level, the
Yeah.
culture, value alignment, what your current staff skill set is. Salesforce has the great marketing that Charity talked about, but does your team have that skill set, or do you have the investment to invest in your team to get the skill set to manage a Salesforce system or a BBCRM system? So it's not always a one-to-one ratio that you can simplify. You really need your team to think through all their processes, their needs, what their priorities are, and then, like Charity was saying before, when you are comparing your CRM vendors, give them demo scripts so you can have that apples to apples comparison so they don't just do that dog and pony show and show you what their best features are or dazzle you with AI, and yet you're not even in a place to start using AI. So if you put all your processes and your user stories down and give them more direction so that they're all demoing the same thing, then you can really start to see the differentiation between the vendors.
Oh, I love that. So you're coming to the demo or in advance of it and saying, we don't care about the dog and pony show. We care about these three things. And you say that to
Mhm.
all of them so you can really compare. Well, I like that very much. Okay.
And you should always ask them because sometimes they'll prep it and they'll prep their system for you to show those things. So you do need to ask, like, is this native functionality that if we were to, when do we get this kind of functionality? Because sometimes they'll show you one that you have to pay 4 or 5 layers later to get that one
Yeah.
business process that you need.
Yeah. Okay. And then someone is asking, when they're migrating to a new CRM, of course, this new CRM will provide some kind of migration services, but do you ever see that as an opportunity to clean up the data, or as you are making the switch? I know it's a very complicated process. What are your thoughts on cleaning up the data? Should that be done before, in the new system, during the migration? What do you think?
It really should be both. So you should use the functionality in your current system and do the cleanup that you are able to before you do the migration. But the migration can offer some pretty complex mapping and deduping. So there is always an opportunity to leverage that. But then it just becomes a little bit harder to test when you're doing that user acceptance testing. If you're relying on the migration to do all of the cleanup, then it's going to be harder to go record by record. If it's messy in your old system and then you're looking at the new system, it's hard to gauge, did everything map correctly, or is this just part of the cleanup that happened through the conversion?
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay. I love this. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, let's go on to a couple more of the questions that we have. So many CEOs, executive directors, that kind of thing will worry that a tech upgrade will derail fundraising. What do the most successful organizations do to keep revenue steady during transitions? Also, another little curveball, any time of year that's better to do the transition and times that are not.
So it's
Jenna, do you want to start? Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's really tempting to always want to be saving money and through a conversion, but often we see that if you cut corners during a migration, you're often going to pay for it later anyway. So, for example, your staff's time. If you have staff that need to be focused on that conversion and implementation of your new system, then you don't want to affect your current fundraising by them feeling spread too thin and not able to do their day-to-day job, plus focus on the migration. Or if they focus too much on their day-to-day job, then you might impact your implementation, and then you're not able to maximize the investment in your new system. So you really need to budget for your staff's time, leverage organizations like Barker and Scott who can either backfill your day-to-day operations for you or help you with the implementation itself. So depending on the strength and the skill set of your team, there's organizations that can help for both. You can always have, temporary employees that you're bringing on through the migration. Maybe volunteers can help backfill as well. And then also making sure that you're comfortable with some overlap between the systems. It's really tempting to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to just pay for my legacy system up until this date, and then we're going to start paying for the new system. And then you rush through the conversion of the new system just to hit your subscription end date. And you end up having data quality issues that you missed because you were rushing. And your team would probably have felt a little bit more comfortable if they had a month or two overlap to have those systems in parallel. So that way, if they couldn't really find something in the new system because they're still learning, they can check it in the old system, or they can highlight to the vendor issues that maybe got missed. So don't cut those corners because you think it's going to save you money. It's going to end up costing you more money either during or after.
Excellent point. Okay.
Charity,
Okay.
do you want to touch on the timeline for?
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat I was just so like, yes, with Jenna's answer that I forgot your
Yeah,
second.
I think it's, as an agency, we've encountered a number of organizations who go, oops, we're doing our migration in November and December, which is,
Okay.
the biggest fundraising time of the year. What are your thoughts on when to plan to do it?
So I did have a really strong reaction because I had a really strong idea of when not to, and
Yeah.
that's leading up to and during audit season. So if whenever your finance team is doing that, I think that is the big pain point because they often have to test the gift processing side of all of that. And if they're busy, I think it's a big pain point. So don't do it during the busiest fundraising, and don't also forget your other teams like finance during their busy seasons.
Hmm. Excellent point. I don't think I even thought about the other teams. So, okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, so and we have 5 minutes left. Thank you, Jenna, for answering the question. Okay, let me see through how many questions can we get through. What's one metric or dashboard view that instantly tells you whether your data and systems are actually working for you?
I think that my quick gut reaction is how often is your highest form of senior leadership logging into your system? So are they logging in daily, weekly? Are they using it at all? I think that's a great way to gauge like if whatever vision of success you have is working or not, is if your chief development officer, CEO is also using, maybe not logging in, but are they regularly using your data effectively?
Okay. And let's see. So let's talk about operationalizing fundraising strategy. What is a concrete example of that, and maybe something that connects strategy people and data?
So I think one thing that's really simple, but it's surprising how many organizations don't do this, is configuring how you are expected to report out on your fundraising performance into your fundraising hierarchy in the CRM. So if your senior leadership, your board is expecting to see the revenue based on individuals, institutional giving, government funding, your CRM should be able to do that with a click of a button or dynamically in a dashboard. You shouldn't have to export that to Excel and spend hours of manipulation. So when you are configuring that fundraising hierarchy, just do it based on how you're expected to report on the data, regardless of, what's out of the box with that system or any kind of standard best practices that the vendor might give, because you will save your time and make it just more usable for your staff.
So you're saying a red flag would be if someone is spending a lot of time preparing reports prior to a board meeting or something along those lines.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. Okay, we've got a couple minutes left. So AI, Everyone cares about AI. Nonprofits are hearing nonstop about AI, about automation, and about dashboards and things like that. Which of these trends will actually make fundraisers' lives easier in the next 12 months?
Well, the answer is if you can wave a magic wand, all three of them would make your fundraisers' lives easier, but they kind of build upon each other. You can't go from A to Z. So if you're not using automated dashboards right now, dynamic, if you are exporting your data to Excel and doing a bunch of manipulation, or you feel like you have data integrity issues, you can't jump into AI. So I think you should look at it like building steps. So first get to a place where you can just use dashboards that are constantly refreshing without having to manipulate the data. If that's working, then build in some automation to maybe have reports automatically emailed to key stakeholders or have acknowledgements that are automatically emailed. And then once you're comfortable with that, then start looking at AI. So depending on the quality of your data and where you are already, you might be able to do that in the next 12 months, but don't feel the pressure to do that because all three of those are going to benefit you and you'll regret it if you try and jump from A to Z and go right to the AI.
Okay.
Because I think the core of it is solid data, like reliable data. You
Yeah.
can't have any of those things. And if you had reliable data, that would make your lives easier in the next 12 months.
Yeah. Oh, excellent point. Yes, someone is saying AI needs clean data. Dashboards need clean data. I love it. Yes. Okay. If you could wave a magic wand and make every nonprofit fix one tech habit, what would it be?
You all are going to think I hate Excel. I don't hate Excel. I love Excel, but shadow spreadsheets are a really bad habit. And it might be just very tempting to use a spreadsheet as your tracker for your pipeline or for your event attendance because that's easy. But then no one else in the organization can see it. You're going to have to add it to the system at some point to get the benefit out of it. So it's better just to enter it in your CRM and just pretend like you don't even have a separate shadow tracker as an option.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I would say my biggest habit I would change is blaming the tech right away. Because then you end up spending so much to fix the tech when maybe it was just a business process that you should have changed all along.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah. All right. And for someone who's listening who's not sure whether their CRM needs a tune-up or a replacement, what are 3 quick self-checks that they could do even this week?
So there's a lot of free polling survey functionality that you can do to do an internal poll of your team and ask your team and, broader people in your team like finance, marketing, not just the development or advancement team. How do they feel about data quality, the functionality, the training and support to kind of get a baseline of the feel within the team? You should be checking your upcoming CRM contract renewal. Is it going to be increasing more than 10%? That might help you decide one way or another. And then do a catalog of your processes and indicate what percentage of them are manual. And if the majority are manual, there's a red flag there.
Okay. We are at time, and I'm sorry to say that means that we missed out on just 2 last questions, but I did want to give everybody Charity's contact information if you're interested in saying hi or asking more questions. Ladies, thank you very much. I felt like this was a very meaty conversation and I appreciated it. Let's see if there's any last questions. I think we're good. And Jena, thank you so much for answering some of those questions. Again, please reach out to myself or Charity if you have any questions. If you are selecting a new CRM soon, best of luck, but I hope that you also revisit what the ladies have suggested. Charity and Jena, thank you for your time.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
us,
having
Christina.
us.
Thank you so
Take care,
much.
everyone.
Bye.